Listen carefully. Love doesn't disappear overnight. It leaves quietly. First through silence, then through distance, and finally through your confusion. I want to say this gently, but honestly, because you deserve truth more than comfort. When someone no longer loves you, they don't announce it. They retreat. Not physically at first, emotionally. The first sign is emotional withdrawal. They're still there, but they're not with you. Conversations become shorter, lighter, safer. They stop asking the questions that once mattered. They no longer lean in. They lean away. And here's what hurts the most. They don't fight anymore. No disagreement. No passion. No urgency to understand you. Because when love is alive, people fight for connection. When love is fading, people choose distance over discomfort. You start feeling like you're talking at them, not with them. Your emotions feel too heavy. Your needs feel inconvenient. Your presence feels optional. And slowly, painfully, you begin to doubt yourself. You ask, am I asking for too much? Am I too sensitive? Did I change? But hear me clearly. Love does not make you feel like a burden. Emotional withdrawal isn't about being busy. It's about being unavailable by choice. They still have energy. They just no longer spend it on you. And that realization, it doesn't break you loudly. It breaks you quietly in moments when you feel alone even while sitting next to someone. This is the first sign, not hate, not anger, but absence. When someone loves you, curiosity is effortless. They want to know how your day felt, not just how it went. They ask questions because you matter. But when love begins to fade, curiosity disappears. They stop wondering about your inner world. Your thoughts are met with silence. Your stories are met with distraction. Your emotions are met with impatience. You start noticing it in small moments. They don't ask follow-up questions anymore. They don't remember details you once shared. They don't notice changes in your mood because they're no longer paying attention. And this is deeply painful because curiosity is how love says, I see you. I want to understand you. When curiosity dies, connection follows. You might try harder. You explain more. You repeat yourself. You over-communicate, hoping something will land. But instead of feeling closer, you feel exposed, like you're offering pieces of yourself to someone who no longer reaches back. And here's the part we don't talk about enough. Lack of curiosity makes you feel invisible. You begin to shrink. You share less. You protect your feelings by keeping them to yourself. Because being ignored hurts more than being rejected. Love doesn't require perfection, but it requires presence. It requires interest. It requires care. When someone no longer loves you, your inner life becomes inconvenient to them. They don't ask because they don't want to feel responsible for what they'll hear. And none of this means you are boring. None of this means you are too much. It means the emotional investment has quietly ended. Love listens. Love leans in. Love stays curious. And when curiosity is gone, what remains is not peace. It's emotional distance pretending to be calm. When someone loves you, affection flows freely. It's not earned. It's not negotiated. It's simply there. But when love begins to fade, affection becomes conditional. You feel it immediately, even if you can't name it. Touch becomes rare. Warmth becomes selective. Kindness shows up only when you behave in ways that make them comfortable. Affection is no longer a language of love. It becomes a reward system. You get closeness when you're agreeable. You get silence when you're honest. You get warmth when you're quiet. You get distance when you express a need. And slowly, you begin to change yourself to keep the peace. You soften your voice. You swallow your disappointment. You delay your truth. Not because you don't have a voice, but because you've learned that using it costs you connection. And that's not love. That's emotional bargaining. Real love doesn't withhold affection to control behavior. It doesn't punish vulnerability. It doesn't make you earn safety. When affection becomes conditional, intimacy turns into anxiety. You start monitoring yourself. Am I being too emotional, too honest, too needy? But love is not something you audition for. If you feel like closeness disappears the moment you stop performing, that's your signal. Love doesn't make you feel like you're walking on eggshells. Love doesn't retreat when you show up fully. Love doesn't disappear when you need reassurance. When someone no longer loves you, affection becomes transactional, given just enough to keep you hoping, but never enough to make you feel secure. And that slow erosion of safety, it changes you. Not because you're weak, but because you were trying to survive emotional uncertainty. Love is movement. It leans forward. It reaches back. So when someone no longer loves you, the effort doesn't disappear. It shifts entirely onto you. You're the one initiating conversations. You're the one checking in. You're the one trying to fix what you didn't break. And at first, you tell yourself a comforting story. They're tired. They're stressed. This is just a phase. But deep down, you feel it. You're rowing a boat alone while they sit quietly, letting the current decide where you go. Effort becomes heavy, not because love is hard, but because love is no longer shared. You start planning everything. You start apologizing first. You start carrying emotional weight that was never meant to be yours alone. And the most painful part, they let you. They accept your effort without matching it. They receive your care without reciprocating. They benefit from your presence while staying emotionally detached. Love doesn't require perfection, but it does require participation. When someone loves you, they show up, not perfectly, but consistently. One-sided effort isn't devotion. It's self-abandonment dressed up as loyalty. And slowly, your energy drains, your confidence fades, your joy shrinks, because you're giving love into a space that no longer nourishes you. Love should feel like two people building something together, not one person holding everything together alone. If you find yourself exhausted instead of supported, confused instead of connected, anxious instead of secure, that's not because you're asking for too much. It's because you're asking the wrong person. There is a moment when love stops being curious and starts being defensive. And that moment matters. When someone no longer loves you, accountability disappears. Every concern you raise feels like an attack to them. Every feeling you express is met with explanation, justification, or blame. You're not heard, you're handled. You say, "This hurt me." They say, "You're too sensitive." You say, "I feel distant from you." They say, "You're overthinking." And slowly, the conversation stops being about understanding. It becomes about winning. Defensiveness is a wall. It says, "I will not look at myself." It says, "Your pain is inconvenient to me." And this is where love quietly erodes, because love is not about being right, it's about being responsible. When someone loves you, they may feel uncomfortable, but they lean in, they listen, they take ownership. When love fades, responsibility feels like a threat, so they deflect. They minimize, they turn the spotlight back on you. And here's what happens next. You stop bringing things up, not because they don't matter, but because every attempt costs you peace. You learn that honesty leads to conflict, and silence feels safer. But silence doesn't heal, it just delays the truth. Love can survive hard conversations. What it cannot survive is refusal to take responsibility. If every issue becomes your fault, if every feeling becomes an argument, if every concern is met with defense, that's not miscommunication, that's emotional disengagement. Love makes space, not just for joy, but for pain, fear, uncertainty, and grief. So when someone no longer loves you, your emotions start to feel unwelcome. You can sense it immediately. Your sadness is met with impatience. Your anxiety is met with distance. Your vulnerability is met with silence. They don't ask, "What do you need?" They ask, "Why are you like this?" And that question cuts deep. Because now, instead of being supported, you feel managed. Your emotions are no longer something to hold. They're something to avoid. You begin to apologize for how you feel. You soften your pain. You rush your healing, not because you've healed, but because you've learned that your feelings make them uncomfortable. And here's the truth we avoid. When someone loves you, your emotions matter, even when they don't understand them. Love doesn't require fixing. It requires presence. But when love fades, presence feels like a burden. They want the version of you that's easy, calm, quiet, low maintenance. And slowly, you start editing yourself to be more acceptable. You cry less, you share less, you ask for less. And while it may keep the relationship peaceful on the surface, it creates loneliness beneath it. Because being loved is not about being easy, it's about being real. If you feel like you must hide parts of yourself to stay connected, that connection is already fragile. Love holds emotion, love makes room. Love says, bring all of you. When someone no longer loves you, your emotions stop feeling safe. Love naturally thinks forward. It imagines. It weaves you into tomorrow. So when someone no longer loves you, the future grows strangely quiet. They stop using we. They start speaking in I. Plans become vague. Conversations about tomorrow are redirected or avoided. Your presence in their future feels optional. And this is one of the most unsettling signs, because it's not about what's said, it's about what's missing. No excitement. No shared vision. No sense of building something together. You notice it when decisions are made without you. When goals are discussed as solo journeys. When commitments are delayed instead of deepened. And slowly, you begin to feel like a temporary chapter, not a long-term story. Love doesn't guarantee permanence, but it does offer intention. When someone loves you, they want to know where you fit. They want alignment. They want to move with you. When love fades, the future becomes something they want freedom from, not something they want to share. And here's what hurts most: they may not leave, but they stop arriving. You're there in the present, but absent from their imagination. That creates a quiet insecurity, a constant wondering, a sense that you're investing in something with no direction. Love says, let's build. Loss of love says, let's see. And let's see can keep you waiting far longer than you should. If you feel excluded from the future, if commitment feels stalled, if clarity never arrives, that's not patience being tested. That's attachment being slowly loosened. Love is not just affection. It is regard. It is the way someone speaks to you about you and for you. So when someone no longer loves you, respect doesn't explode. It erodes quietly. You hear it in the tone. You feel it in the dismissiveness. You notice it when your opinions are brushed aside instead of considered. They interrupt you more. They joke at your expense. They correct you publicly, but ignore you privately. And none of it is dramatic enough to point at, but all of it is painful enough to change how you see yourself. Respect is how love says, you matter here. When it fades, you begin to feel small, second guessed, unsteady in conversations where you once felt safe. You hesitate before speaking. You reword your thoughts. You wonder if you're being too much again. But love doesn't belittle. Love doesn't mock vulnerability. Love doesn't make you feel foolish for having a voice. And here's the hardest truth: people rarely disrespect someone they're deeply invested in protecting. When love fades, care about your dignity fades with it. They stop guarding your feelings. They stop being careful with your heart. They stop noticing the impact of their words. And that lack of care is not accidental. It's emotional distance showing up in behavior. If you feel talked down to, if sarcasm replaces kindness, if appreciation disappears, that's not you becoming sensitive. That's respect slipping away. Love doesn't mean never hurting each other. It means repairing when we do. So when someone no longer loves you, the effort to repair disappears. They hurt you, and instead of leaning in, they move on. No follow-up, no check-in, no, are you okay after that time passes, but the wound doesn't close? Because no one returned to tend to it. Repair is how love says, you matter more than my comfort. When love fades, silence replaces responsibility. They assume you'll get over it. They expect the relationship to reset without accountability. They benefit from your forgiveness without earning it. And here's what happens next. You carry unresolved pain alone. You replay conversations. You question your reactions. You wonder if you're holding on to things too long. But unhealed moments don't disappear. They stack. And over time, that weight becomes resentment, distance, or numbness. When someone loves you, they don't want unresolved hurt between you. They may struggle, but they return. When someone no longer loves you, closure feels unnecessary to them. They've already emotionally moved on. even if they're still physically present. And that's one of the loneliest experiences there, is being in a relationship where pain is acknowledged only by you. Love repairs, love circles back, love takes responsibility for impact, not just intention. If no one comes back to heal what broke, that's not conflict avoidance. That's emotional disengagement. Here is the truth that takes the longest to accept. When someone no longer loves you, the most courageous thing you can do is stop chasing clarity and start choosing yourself, not with anger, not with revenge, but with honesty. Love doesn't need to be begged into existence. It doesn't need to be proven. And it never asks you to abandon your dignity to keep it alive. If you recognize these signs, it doesn't mean you failed. It means you were paying attention. And paying attention is an act of self-respect. You don't need a dramatic ending to walk away with integrity. You don't need them to admit what you already feel. You don't need closure from someone who stopped showing up emotionally. Closure comes when you stop asking someone to love you in ways they've already shown they cannot. Choosing yourself is not giving up. It is refusing to disappear inside a relationship that no longer sees you. You can grieve what was real without staying where love has become conditional. You can honor the memories without sacrificing your future. You can leave without bitterness, and that is strength. Because real healing doesn't come from being chosen again. It comes from remembering that you were always worthy of consistency, care, and courage. And the moment you stop chasing love that has gone quiet is the moment you make space for a love that knows how to stay.